Tonight, a chilling headline shakes Europe. Russia has officially deployed tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, a move now confirmed by multiple Western intelligence agencies. This development has sent shockwaves through the international community, raising urgent questions about the future of security on the continent. This action marks a significant and dangerous escalation, placing nuclear arms right at NATO's doorstep. The presence of these weapons so close to the alliance's eastern flank fundamentally shifts the security landscape of Eastern Europe, making the region more volatile than it has been in decades. In response, officials in Washington and Brussels are scrambling to coordinate a unified reaction. The specter of nuclear confrontation, once a distant memory, now feels alarmingly close, evoking memories of the Cold War era and the ever-present threat of mutually assured destruction. By positioning these weapons in Belarus, Russia is sending a direct and unmistakable challenge to NATO and its post-Cold War expansion. This move is widely seen as an attempt to intimidate neighboring countries and test the resolve of the Western alliance. The deployment of Iskander-M missiles, along with the retrofitting of Belarusian aircraft for potential nuclear missions, is a calculated strategy designed to create maximum uncertainty. This strategic ambiguity keeps NATO guessing about Russia's true intentions and complicates any potential response. With these weapons now stationed in Belarus, warning times for a potential strike on NATO capitals like Warsaw or Berlin have been drastically reduced. This heightened proximity increases the risk of miscalculation or accidental escalation, making the situation even more precarious for all parties involved. Belarus now serves as a forward operating base for Russia's nuclear forces, further complicating NATO's already complex defense strategies. Military planners across Europe are now forced to reconsider their assumptions and prepare for scenarios that seemed unthinkable just a few years ago. Across Europe, ordinary citizens watch the news with growing anxiety as headlines speculate on the possibility of a new nuclear standoff. The world is left to wonder, are we witnessing a high-stakes bluff or the beginning of a new, far more dangerous era in European security? European leaders have swiftly condemned Russia's actions, calling them reckless and deeply destabilizing. Many warn that this move undermines decades of painstaking progress in nuclear arms reduction and threatens to unravel the fragile security architecture that has kept the peace in Europe since the end of the Cold War. The nuclear threat, once thought to be a relic of a bygone era, has returned as a stark and unsettling reality for Europe. As old fears resurface, the continent faces a future clouded by uncertainty and the renewed shadow of nuclear weapons. To grasp today's crisis, we must revisit Belarus's history. Once a Soviet stronghold bristling with nuclear arms, Belarus inherited a vast arsenal after the USSR's collapse. In a landmark decision, Belarus chose denuclearization, returning all warheads to Russia and embracing a non-nuclear future. The 1994 Budapest Memorandum formalized this, with Russia pledging to respect Belarus's sovereignty in exchange for disarmament. For nearly 30 years, Belarus symbolized post-Cold War de-escalation. Now, with Russian nuclear weapons back on its soil, that legacy is shattered. Belarus has shifted from a buffer state to a launch pad for Russian power, reviving Cold War fears across its borders. Russia's nuclear deployment in Belarus is confirmed by more than words. Satellite imagery and intelligence reveal the truth. Western analysts have tracked upgrades at Belarusian bases, including new bunkers designed for nuclear warheads, the arrival of Iskander-M missile systems, and modified Belarusian aircraft signals of flexible, multi-pronged nuclear capability. Public military parades, like those during the Union Shield exercises, openly display these systems, sending a clear warning to NATO. These parades are strategic messaging, meant to intimidate and remove doubt about Russia's intentions. Russian and Belarusian leaders have now publicly confirmed the presence of tactical nuclear weapons. What began as threats has become reality, with physical evidence on the ground. The combination of satellite intelligence, hardware tracking, and official statements leaves no room for denial. Belarus is now a key node in Russia's nuclear strategy. The world must take this deployment seriously. Moscow defends its recent actions by drawing a direct comparison to NATO's nuclear sharing arrangements, where US nuclear bombs are stationed in several European countries as part of collective defense agreements. Russian officials argue that their deployment is simply mirroring what NATO has done for decades, suggesting a sense of parity and justification for their own moves. But this comparison is misleading and oversimplifies the reality on the ground. NATO's nuclear sharing is based on transparency, defensive intent, and decades of trust among alliance members. Every step is coordinated, with clear communication and oversight, ensuring that these weapons serve as a deterrent rather than a threat. Over the years, the number of nuclear weapons in Europe has been significantly reduced, reflecting ongoing efforts to decrease nuclear risks. Their presence is carefully managed and forms part of a stable deterrent posture, not an aggressive strategy. In stark contrast, Russia's deployment of nuclear weapons in Belarus is a new and escalatory move, carried out with little transparency and surrounded by secrecy. This sudden action has raised alarms across Europe and the international community. It directly violates the spirit of the Budapest Memorandum, which had helped keep Belarus non-nuclear for decades, and now introduces nuclear arms into a country that had previously renounced them. Importantly, command and control of these weapons remain centralized in Moscow, with Belarus acting only as a host, not an equal partner in decision-making or oversight. This move is widely interpreted as offensive, designed to intimidate NATO's eastern members, heighten regional tensions, and potentially create divisions within the alliance by stoking fear and uncertainty. Rather than serving as a defensive measure, it is seen as a tool of nuclear blackmail, intended to pressure and coerce neighboring countries and the broader West. While Russia claims it is simply leveling the playing field, in reality, it has unilaterally changed the rules of engagement, increasing unpredictability and risk. The strategic purpose behind this move is clear: to gain leverage over NATO, force the alliance to reconsider its security options, and shift the balance of power in the region. As a result, the stakes for European security have never been higher, with leaders and citizens alike facing a new era of uncertainty and heightened nuclear tension. The recent deployment of Russian nuclear weapons in Belarus has dramatically altered the security landscape of Europe. With these weapons now stationed so close to NATO borders, the warning times for a potential nuclear strike on major NATO capitals have been slashed to mere minutes, leaving almost no room for error or hesitation in the event of a crisis. Iskander missiles, capable of carrying both conventional and nuclear warheads, can now reach key cities like Warsaw, Vilnius, and Riga in just a few minutes. This unprecedented proximity compresses the decision-making window for NATO leaders, forcing them to react faster than ever before to any perceived threat. In this hair-trigger environment, the risk of catastrophic miscalculation is higher than ever. A single false alarm, technical glitch, or misinterpreted signal could rapidly escalate into a full-blown disaster, with little time to verify or de-escalate. As a result, NATO is being forced to completely overhaul its defensive planning. The alliance must now account for a credible and immediate nuclear threat emanating from Belarus, requiring new strategies and rapid response protocols. Air and missile defense strategies have become far more complex, with frontline NATO forces now facing greater vulnerability. The need for advanced detection systems and coordinated defense has never been more urgent. The alliance faces a delicate challenge: how to protect its members and deter aggression without provoking further escalation or miscalculation that could spiral out of control. Beyond the military implications, this move is also a form of psychological warfare. It is designed to sow fear, uncertainty, and division within NATO societies, testing the resolve and unity of the alliance. The Kremlin's strategy is clear. By raising the specter of nuclear escalation, it hopes to intimidate NATO and weaken the alliance's cohesion, making it harder for member states to present a united front. As a result, European security has become more fragile and uncertain than at any point in recent memory. The sense of vulnerability is palpable, affecting both governments and ordinary citizens. The path to stability is now more complicated than ever, with diplomatic, military, and psychological dimensions all intertwined. The stakes for peace and security in Europe have never been higher. In this new nuclear reality, every second truly counts. The margin for error is razor thin, and the decisions made in these critical moments will shape the future of the continent. The deployment in Belarus shatters the legacy of the 1994 Budapest Memorandum. Belarus, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan gave up nuclear arms in exchange for security guarantees from Russia. The US and the UK. Russia pledged to respect their sovereignty and refrain from threats or force. Now, by placing nuclear weapons in Belarus, Moscow has broken those promises and undermined Belarusian sovereignty. The memorandum's credibility is in ruins, sending a chilling message to non-nuclear states worldwide. Why trust security guarantees if they can be so easily discarded. This erosion of trust threatens the entire global non-proliferation regime. The risk: more nations may seek their own nuclear deterrence, fearing that only self-reliance ensures survival. Russia's nuclear deployment in Belarus has reignited old fears and changed daily life across Europe. In NATO's eastern states, memories of Soviet domination and Cold War anxiety have returned. Younger generations now face a reality their parents hoped was gone: the threat of nuclear war. Public pressure is mounting for stronger defenses and closer U.S. ties, shifting Europe's political center eastward. The move fuels debates about military support for Ukraine and the risks of direct confrontation with Russia. Political divisions are deepening, testing European unity. The nuclear taboo feels weaker, and the sense of safety that underpinned European prosperity is eroding. Societies are changing as the future grows more uncertain. Russia's action is not just military, it's an assault on Europe's confidence and stability. NATO now faces its gravest security crisis since the Cold War. The alliance must strengthen its eastern defenses, deploying more air and missile systems, increasing exercises and boosting intelligence. But deterrence alone isn't enough. Diplomacy is essential to prevent disaster. Communication channels with Moscow must remain open to avoid miscalculation. Strategic stability talks, even in a hostile climate, are vital to re-establish guardrails. Vigilance is key. NATO will monitor Belarus for any signs of escalation or preparation for use. Any shift in Russia's nuclear posture would demand an immediate response. The choices made now by leaders in Moscow, Washington, and Brussels will shape Europe's future. The path forward requires both strength and dialogue. The world watches as Europe stands at a crossroads between stability and confrontation.